Good morning. Coming up today on Spotlight, two high-powered roundtable discussions about rebuilding and marketing Detroit. Who's in, who's out? Our guests will include Tim Richey of Detroit Powell, Sandy Pierce of FirstMerit Bank, Dennis Archer Jr. of Ignition Media Group, and Detroit developers George Jackson, Chris Jackson, and Marvin Beatty. Motor City, Movers and Shakers. It's Sunday, June the 22nd. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. And welcome to Spotlight as we talk about developing Detroit and marketing Detroit. Today with two different roundtable discussions. And we appreciate you joining us to kick all this off today. George, my grandmother used to always say, just cut to the chase. Glenn Walsh, longtime Detroit businessman, was on this program a while back. He was very critical of planning and development. He was critical of you personally.
I would dare say what's occurring in Detroit is really bad for the black businessman. We have a tremendous number of African Americans that are around business but not in business.
You immediately called me on my cell. You said I want equal time, and you wanted to be on. Why?
Well, I was particularly took affront to the statement that I was a prop and put in by white business interests to serve their interests solely. I think my track record, I stand on my record. I think I've done a lot more to help African American business than any leader in economic development in the history of the city of Detroit, and I think the facts clearly show that. And certainly have done more than Glenn Walsh has done himself. Look, I think that not only do I stand on my record, but I feel that either in my opinion, he made some statements that were outright lies, or he just plainly speaks from the depths of unadulterated ignorance.
I don't know George Jackson. George Jackson is from...
How do you not know George Jackson? George Jackson was for a long period of time over economic and development.
I tried to meet the man twice. I don't play baseball. So after that, but I have done fairly well without that. But you see, my thing was, I understood where George was coming from. We needed a black face to get these tax abatements and things that the community, that the corporate American people wanted. And he did a very successful job. He did not do any good for the black community.
There are issues and problems and barriers and opportunities that African Americans need more of. And I've been there fighting for that even before I was president of Detroit Economic Growth Corporation. And for him to take that issue, which is a legitimate issue to some degree, and personally attack an African American, I think is very cowardly. Because it doesn't get at the root of the problem.
Do you think that this is a case of a businessman who perhaps did not get some of the personal attention that he may wanted to have gotten as a business person?
I've been there over 12 years. He's never put forth or submitted an RFP to us. I don't recall that at all. I don't remember him ever wanting to really talk about starting a new project. We had one conversation about one deal that he had been started long before I was even in the job. We've since had conversations. We've talked about kids, his grandkids, and all that. Then he sits on your show and tells you that I didn't return his phone calls. He's been saying that since Kwame Kilpatrick was mayor. We've had conversations about families and things of this nature. The bottom line is my job is not to go knock on somebody's door and just hand it to them.
One thing he was very critical of on a larger scale was the number of tax abatements going on in the city of Detroit, and particularly tax abatements given to organizations and businesses and people that maybe did not have strong roots in the city of Detroit. Suburbanites, people from other cities coming in, they're getting it, and that long-time business person who has been here through thick and thin is not getting those things. Good point or bad point?
It's a bad point. Again, a misstatement in regards to not factually supportable is his statement from the standpoint that a good business deal is a good business deal. We don't look at the versus race. We look at it. We look at the merits of the deal. Either it makes sense or it doesn't from a business standpoint. So most African Americans that I've worked with who have done business and have done projects have received incentives, all of them almost. And so from that standpoint, again, that statement is not factually true at all.
All right, let me get Chris Jackson and Marvin Beatty. You've both been doing business in Detroit for a long period of time, and so that this doesn't just become George Jackson versus Glenn Walsh, you guys have hands-on. Your assessment of where African Americans are doing business in the city of Detroit as we talk about this quote-unquote renaissance, is this a good time or a bad time?
Well, I would have to say that first, we are underrepresented when it comes to development in Detroit. But what I will say is that part of that is the responsibility on us as African American business people to be able to put together projects and deals to bring to George and the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation into the city and to the state to look for their assistance. I can personally say, and I am a Detroiter, born and raised in Detroit, that Detroit Economic Growth Corporation has been very receptive. We did an $18 million project. We have all throughout our project African American participation from the contractor to the architect to many other subcontractors, and our whole development team is an African American team, myself and Jim Jenkins. But it is important that we do need more African Americans involved in this resurgence, this renaissance.
Marvin, Beatty, you've had your fingers on a lot of things. It started a lot with Greektown and casinos. You moved on, you're an investor in the new Myers at 8 Mile and Woodward, which I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, is what, the highest grossing one in the Myers chain?
I believe that's the number, yes.
Okay, and you aren't even open 24 hours yet.
We're
right?
not open 24 hours.
But you are going to be 24 at some
Well,
point.
you know, hopefully we can get them open 24 hours. You know, I mean, you know, Meyer is a conservative but a very smart business company. And they needed to test the waters in Detroit, and I think that they are seeing the value that Detroit is bringing to its overall organization, and will, I think, soon begin to look very clearly at the hour issue, so that Detroiters and all of the folks here in the area can shop 24 hours. So we hope so.
All right, I need to sneak a break in here real quick. We come back. I want to pick up because I know you're doing multiple things, the two of you, along with George and others, and we'll talk about that right after this break. Marvin, talk about some of the things that you're involved in and how you feel this is going to benefit not just African Americans, but the city as a whole.
Well, let me just say that the Gateway Marketplace, which is just about 100% leased at this point, and we just opened a McDonald's and a Starbucks just in the last 2 weeks, and we have a couple of other great additions that will come in the next few months. But a big part of what's happened is, and you know, we shouldn't move away from understanding that without DEGC, in many of these instances, a lot of this stuff would not have happened. They created all kinds of opportunities for us when we were struggling. It took us 8 years to develop this project.
Yeah, I remember that long road.
And until DEGC got involved, and we went up with George to Grand Rapids to meet with the Meyer people to convince them that it was the right thing to do and it was the right time. Without that relationship with DEGC, I'm convinced that would have never happened.
You're also involved in the state fairgrounds development.
Yes.
With Magic Johnson. Bring us up to date on that. Where
well,
are we at?
We are moving along very well. We've negotiated our relationship with the State Land Bank. And we're moving forward. And again, DEGC was actively involved in the negotiations between Magic Plus and the State Land Bank to get us across the finish line. It was a struggle because they had not really done any relationships like the one they did with Magic Plus. So it took an extraordinary amount of time and leadership that we got from DEGC that helped us now put us in a place where we are. We've hired the Smith Group that's on site doing a land layout, a site plan that we will present to the community, in fact, next Thursday. that will allow the community to begin to look at what we are attempting to do there.
Yes or no, this is a good time for African Americans to be doing business in the city of Detroit. The doors are not being slammed in their face.
Well, it's a good time, yes. Can it be better? Without question.
All right. Chris Jackson, you've got the Queen Lillian project that's involved with Wayne State University.
Yes, Queen Lillian 1 was a 63,000 square foot Class A medical office building. Wayne State is our tenant. That is right in the heart of Midtown. So we have completed that project. Wayne State moved in last year. They occupy 100% of the building. Project is going very well. With the success of that project, Jim and I have embarked upon Queen Lillian 2. We have land that we are acquiring from the city of Detroit. We would love the price to be a little cheaper, but it's actually in the heart of Midtown on Woodward, just south of Mack. That will be a mixed-use development, $24 million project, retail on the first floor, with office on the second floor, and the remainder of the project about 80 market rate of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments.
I just want to say too that you know, look, a lot of room for improvement in regards to increasing African American and even residents of Detroit's participation in development. But the barriers here are barriers that you find in every city. You know, lack of capital. That's why we have to get so into more creative things, and we do that every day. That is our job. But also a lack of capital. But you know, and because we don't have the same as African Americans don't have the same contacts, you know, or relationships. All that plays a role in this.
You've announced that you're going to be leaving as president of the DEGC. Yes. What's the timetable for that?
Well, it's up in the air. They are going through a process now to select my replacement. When that is done, I will be leaving. And then I will become one of these Detroit developers like this gentleman here. So everything we're talking about, I will be doing.
Make money and start making it yourself.
I'll be on the other side of the table.
We look forward to that.
And working with them too. Hopefully, yeah, I would like to do that too.
All right. If the three of you could send a message to Mayor Duggan, Council President Brenda Jones, and the rest of the Detroit City Council, of which, Chris, you know an awful lot about, having been a staffer on Detroit City Council, what would that message be right now?
Well, you know, for me, they have been receptive in providing these incentives, creating and we want those incentives to stay in place. You know, there are people talking about from the tax abatements, the tax increment financing, that maybe the city is overloading on that. For us as African American developers, it is the lifeblood for us.
Just had the passing of Don Davis, who I know you all knew well. Any of you want to just speak on behalf of everybody, say about what he represented in terms of
I would like
business
to
in the
take
city?
this, you know, Don was my partner, Queen Lillian, Queen was his mother, Lillian is my mother, and so I live with the legacy of Don Davis every day. I think Marvin and I both, you know, we stand on his shoulders as a giant, as a developer, as a banker, as an entertainer, as a philanthropist, and so we just certainly, you know, we mourn his loss, but he set an example for us all.
Yeah. All right, very good. Joyce Jackson, thank you for coming in. Keep us up to date on when you're going over to the money side. Chris Jackson, thank you. Marvin Beatty, always a pleasure having you. And we want you to stick around. Coming up, Tim Richey, Sandy Pierce, and Dennis Archer Jr. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Spotlight. Joining me now are three people who are involved in a new venture in the city of Detroit, a very visual venture, and we'll talk about that today on our program with Tim Richey, Sandy Pierce, and Dennis Archer Jr. Welcome to Spotlight.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, whose brainchild was this? These huge billboards that are going up around town to benefit 5 nonprofits and, of course, FirstMerit Bank. And we'll talk about that in a little bit.
This guy gets the credit.
This Jr.
I'll take part of the credit, Chuck.
Okay.
At Ignition Media
True
Group,
diplomat.
part of what we do is try to connect people and involve people in partnerships where everyone is a win-win all the way around. And with all the positive things that are happening in Detroit, we happen to represent an outdoor advertising company who decided that they wanted to do something positive. As we started to talk about how that could happen, if you think to a person and now an institution that's very involved that would be a good partner with this program, you think of Sandy Pierce. And so, we called Sandy and said, hey, Sandy, we have this idea for this campaign where we would highlight nonprofits, organizations that are doing a great job in the community, but in this instance, focus on the worker bees, if you will, those people that are actually doing the work out there in the streets on behalf of the organization.
There are a zillion nonprofits, small, medium, and big. How did you settle in on those 5, of which Tim Richey's organization is one?
So all of them were very intentional. Of course, we support more than these 5 at FirstMerit as well as Ignition Media Group, Chuck, but we had 5 spaces, and we wanted to support organizations in this campaign that were not only changing the lives of Detroiters and those in the region, but frankly, that could use some recognition bigger than what they've gotten in the past because of what they're doing right now in the city of Detroit. So the campaign is all around 5 nonprofits, and the slogan is Dedication to Detroit Merits Recognition. And so it's all about directing people that see the billboards to organizations like Detroit PAL.
So you've got Detroit PAL, you've got the DIA,
We've got the Michigan,
Foundation.
the Michigan Science Center.
Right, Dr. Tanya Matthews' organization.
That's right.
Belle Isle Conservancy.
And the
Belle
Belle
Isle Conservancy,
Conservancy,
which has gotten a lot of attention lately, the Belle Isle. Tim Richey, PAL, you're one of the beneficiaries of this. What do you expect to get out of this, and what do you hope you get out of this, besides just the visual recognition?
Well, honestly, I think the first thing and the most important thing, well, first of all, I want to thank these 2 for thinking about Detroit PAL and coming up with the concept, but I think for us, it's an opportunity for us to thank our volunteers. It's an opportunity for us to highlight the good work of these fabulous folks. We have nearly 1,500 volunteers that work on the ground every day with the young people in Detroit. And so the guy that we have up there, DeAndre Moss, is a fantastic volunteer with us for a long time, but what DeAndre is doing is really representing this awesome group of folks that are serving Detroit youth. And then Detroit PAL, we just want more people to know about the great things we're doing.
We didn't want to focus on the aesthetics of the individual. We wanted to focus on the fact that each of these individuals, to Tim's point, represents a broader pool of volunteers across many organizations that are all doing good. So everyone's dressed uniformed, and we're focusing on the effort in the organization. And so that was the thought behind that.
But what's important about that, Dennis, is we direct anybody looking at the billboards through firstmerit.com/blue shirt to a website that gives you all the information that you need on the organization and allows you the opportunity to get involved, whether you want to be a volunteer or whether you want to make a financial contribution.
Tim Richey, Sandy Pierce, Dennis Archer Jr., hang on one second. We need to get a little break in here. We'll hurry right back with more discussion. We hope you stay with us. Quick question. The buzzword at Mackinac, at the Mackinac Policy Conference, which we were all at, seemed to be collaboration. Agree or disagree?
Businesses that are getting involved in partnerships with the nonprofits, in partnerships with each other, is because we all want to be part of the story of transforming Detroit and making it, first of all, survive and thrive again. And I think that's a corporate responsibility, and I think everyone else does.
Yeah, Chuck, I think that when the story is told 10, 15, 20 years from now about how Detroit made it through a rough period, I think a large part of this story will be about the collaboration. It does seem cliche and kind of a corny buzzword, but if you really look at what has happened between local, state, and federal government, the local philanthropic institutions, and I wouldn't say most importantly, but very key, the corporate folks that have gotten involved in Detroit. Without all of that working together, we would not be on the path that we are now.
Ambassador Magazine, things are going well.
Yes.
you've got your fingers in a number of different businesses. That's just one of them.
We've got a great team there that does a phenomenal job, and yeah, we're going into our 9th year of publication right now, and so it's a lot of fun. The magazine has moved downtown from Birmingham because we thought it was important to do that, and the staff is enjoying being downtown.
Sandy Pierce, you put a new signage on a building in Southfield, just around the corner from us here. Very visible, FirstMerit. FirstMerit is everywhere these days. That's typical Sandy Pierce. When you're in charge of something, you make sure that people know.
It's actually a really good location because, as you know, Southfield, from you being here, it's about a 30-minute drive from almost anywhere to almost anywhere. And to Detroit, it's only about 15 minutes. So it's good for our employees, it's good for our customers. It does give us leverage of our brand on the Lodge Freeway, because anytime you're going up or down from Detroit, you see it. But the most important thing is that we're committed to this city, and we're committed to the state of Michigan, we're committed to the Midwest. So as you know, Chuck, and I'm not sure every listener knows, that when FirstMerit came to Michigan a year ago, they paid $1.3 billion. They wrote a $1.3 billion check for the opportunity to do business in the state of Michigan. That's, to me, really important for those of us that are passionate about this state and about the city of Detroit. That's a commitment. It's an investment, and we feel like it's an opportunity for us. So we're grateful.
And being a typical bank, they expect to make that money back in a good way, right?
Already are.
Tim Richey, former soccer player here, World Cup getting a lot of attention. As you look at a big event like that, but also what you're trying to do on a local level, the two tie together in any respect?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you see folks that you admire, and you see folks out there working hard. I mean, our kids learn a lot from, any sporting event that they may watch. The athletes and how they prepare themselves and how they work hard out there. The thing about the World Cup that's so phenomenal, too, is just the cultural diversity that's out there. And that's really representative of Detroit and the soccer leagues and the programs that we have. We have kids of all shapes and sizes and colors and backgrounds, and we embrace all of them, much like the World Cup does. And so it's neat to watch it on TV, and then it's neat to see our little guys trying to do the same thing, guys and girls. So, it's just another fun time for us in Detroit and at Detroit Pal.
All right. Tim Richey, Sandy Pierce, Dennis Archer Jr., thanks for spreading the good word about what's going on in Detroit. Those of us who live and work here, we know what's happening, but now this program goes all across the state, and it's good that people on the west side of the state and the middle of the state know about what's happening here and expose some of the stereotypes that are out there. All right, we appreciate you coming in. And we want to thank you at home for joining us. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more Newsmakers in the Spotlight. We hope you have a great week.